Most parents today love their kids more than anything. They want to protect them from hurt and pretty much every failure and every moment of possible discomfort. But the world of psychology has been clear for many, many years now. The more we shield children from manageable struggle, the more fragile they become. Plenty of studies on resilience, and they show that kids who experience small but safe failures, they may scrape their knee, they may become very bored, but they're better at solving their problems. They develop stronger emotional regulation, they have better problem-solving skills, and higher confidence when life gets hard, right? Kids who are constantly rescued, they often grow into anxious, avoidant adults who crumble under pressure. When Gen X kids like me ran wild by today's standards, we got hurt, we failed at things a lot, but we figured it out and we turned out okay. Maybe even a little better than most and a little tougher for it for sure. And today many parents have swung too far in the other direction. And I'm not here to judge, but I am here to offer a better path. Let me show you what historical parenting looked like and why it built resilience and how we can give our children both safety and strength without bubble wrapping them through their childhood. So there's this historical shift that took place. And we went from guided independence to overprotection. So for most of human history, and certainly in the rural communities, parenting meant giving kids responsibility. And it gave them responsibility at a very early age. And they began to learn from their natural consequences on things as they went along. If you were the last one to leave the house, most likely you were the one, your job was to ensure that the wood stove was chucked full so that when you came home, the house wasn't cold, right? Before school, I fed the bottle-fed calves before I even caught the bus. And as you can imagine, that was a kind of a dirty job. You had to be cleaned up and ready to go to school, right? And if you drove a tractor over 20 miles to help somebody out, you also might be a Gen Xer. When I was young, I had a neighbor's cow giving birth to a calf and it was having trouble. He called my dad and asked if I could help, and guess what? Dad said, go help him. I drove through an ice storm on a tractor to go help him out. Pulled the calf out, cleaned him up, got him there with mama and ready to go, and everything was good, and drove it back home in the dark. Dad met me in the yard. He said, did you help him? I said, yes, sir. Good. Now put the tractor away. No parade, no great job, son, just good. That was normal. Kids were expected to contribute, and I contributed daily. And that contribution led to problem-solving ability. And you learn to recover from setbacks. These natural accountabilities and natural consequences taught way more accountability way faster than any lecture could ever do. And then came this big shift in our society where fear of stranger danger, lawsuits, and all this competitive parenting, we swung hard the other direction and we became these helicopter parents. Not me, but many have. We wrapped these kids in helmets and pads, and we scheduled every minute towards them getting better at sports or trying to protect them from the independence that we endured. And psychologists call it a overcorrection, obviously. We didn't want our kids to feel the same loneliness or risk that we felt, so we overprotected. And now we're seeing the results and the downside. Much higher anxiety, much lower resilience, and kids who struggle the moment life gets hard. We can build resilience through calculated risk. What do I mean? Historically, our parenting didn't eliminate risk. It just managed it. Think Gen Xers, if you rode in the back of a truck for an extended period of time, maybe a multi-day trip, You know, you stood up in the back, wind in your face, or maybe you rode in the shell or a cover without safety belts, without anything, really. You were just out in the back hanging out. Dad was driving, mom was riding shotgun, and kids were cargo, right? We made games up. We played things. We sang songs. We honked at every passing trucker that went by, you know. Never thought twice about it. We just learned to hold on, stay aware, and not fall out. And yeah, we got in accidents and got bruised up a time or two, but you know, I looked at it as it was freedom wrapped up in unspoken responsibility. And if you were the kind of kid who got a gun before you even had 2 digits in your year, you might be a Gen Xer. I was 8 years old when I got my first .22 rifle, and we had maybe 3 or 4 shots of it into an old aluminum pie pan before he said, "Don't shoot anything you don't want to eat." I didn't eat much that year. Wasn't a lot of things that I felt like I wanted to eat, but I learned that tools are serious and that words are serious and that you don't lie about either of them. Dad watched quietly until he knew I could handle it, and then he let me on my way. They weren't reckless by letting me do that. They were guided, obviously, and parents stayed close, you know, close enough to intervene if needed, but far enough that kids were allowed to discover their own capabilities. And today we could do the same thing. We could do it safely. You know, let them climb a tree, right? You don't have to be that far away, but let them ride bikes without all the protective gear, right? With all the training wheels. Let them experience a scraped knee. Those small failures prove to them that they are capable and that they can recover, even if there's a mistake made. I got multiple kids with stitches from that very thing. I understand that. But you can protect without smothering. You know, the sweet spot isn't zero protection. It's, you know, or total protection. It's guided independence. You know, there's very practical ways of doing it. And, you know, I could give you tons of real responsibility early. Let's say 6 years old even, you know, helping around the house, carrying things, groceries, making them feel a part of the family. At 10 years old, you want them helping on simple things, home tasks, you know, not just cleaning your room situations, but being a part of everything that goes on around the house. All the while allowing for calculated risks that are supervised but not controlled. You know, teach problem solving. And before you just solve the equation for them, ask the question to force their mind to go through that. What do you think you could try instead of just rushing in to fix it? Now, the biggest thing is modeling very calm strength. Show them how to handle hard days without melting down, without showing your emotion. You know, my daughter right now is trying to find this balance with her daughter and son. And they play outside for hours, which is great to see. They work in the garden. They explore nature. They get dirty. They don't wear shoes all the time. They got bumps and bruises and scratches all over them, but they are protecting them without smothering them. They're guiding them without controlling everything. Now, it's not easy, but it's necessary. Those little ones deserve to grow up knowing that they can handle hard things because their mama and their daddy showed them how to. So, fathers, mothers, we don't have to choose between safety and strength. We can give our kids both. Let them fall while making sure the ground isn't too hard. Let them struggle while being close enough to encourage them. And please, let them be bored while showing them that boredom is the birthplace of creativity. That's how we raise resilient kids in a fragile world. Comment one thing that you have done or that you're going to do down below. I'll read every one of them. Let's let these kids have fun. Let's let them get grounded on their own, step by step, stone by stone. We'll see you next week.